Alright guys, it's been a while. Figured it no better time than the present than to get some stuff off my chest. I don't know who this video is going to resonate with and not resonate with, but I'll say this before I dive into what I want to talk about today. If this triggers you, this is probably meant for you. If it inspires you, it's probably meant for you as well. But as someone who's been coaching people for 36 years up to this point, I've had a chance to detect many patterns. I've had a chance to work with all types of personalities, different dynamics, and I'm very grateful and I'm blessed for it. So the advantage of having this experience is that you can start to detect self-sabotage pretty easily because I've had enough of a sample size to know when it's coming. Let me turn this over. This is gonna look all kinds of weird. My stand here is not loyal today, but anyway. So here's the first idea that I want you to understand and consider. If you're seeing the whole concept of self-improvement, making changes, personal development, whatever you want to do, whether you're trying to lose weight, whether you're trying to change a bad habit, whether you're trying to improve your business, whether you're trying to achieve anything on a positive perspective. If you're getting overwhelmed, if you're twisting this endeavor of self-improvement into a negative, I want to tell you that when this happens, you've essentially lost the plot of why you're here. Okay? If you have somehow twisted it in your mind that improving yourself in any way is a burden or inconvenience, you've essentially lost the plot of your whole life and why you're here. I know that may sound harsh, but I only bring the truth, and for most people, the truth will be a bit painful. We live in a world now where there's infinite ways for us to delude ourselves and to BS ourselves into contorting reality. But I haven't gotten that memo yet, so I only bring you the truth. So if you have made dealing with nonsense and swimming in mediocrity and focusing more on your problems rather than your desires and goals, if you've made that your priority over reaching for your highest potential, you've lost the plot on every level: mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Typically, I find that if I'm coaching a client, the plot tends to be lost right at the point where they're going to make their biggest breakthrough. It's one of the biggest quagmires ever. It's like almost giving birth, right? I mean, not that I've done it, but I've been there. You know, those last few pushes, or right when, you know, the birth fully happens, is the hardest. Obviously, in that point, you can't give up. I mean, you can, but it's not going to be a good thing. So people tend to quit right when it gets the hardest, and that's where this self-sabotage comes in. That this is where your ego really comes to a head, right? It's like you come to this fork in the road where your old self is about to die and your new self is about to be reborn. But that ego, that old self, You know, for the old self, this is the last stand. This is the Alamo. This is the, you know, this is the last stand of his existence. So they're gonna, that ego and that old self is gonna fight tooth and nail to the death to maintain status quo. And this is where most people come to a critical point in their journey. This is where people either make the breakthrough or they break down. Okay? It's my job as your coach to make sure that the breakthrough happens as opposed to the breakdown. And that's going to look different for the individual. And again, this is something that I've had to learn, coaching different personalities and coaching different clients, being successful and coaching people through the transition, and not being successful and coaching people through this transition. So what I'm telling you is, in a nutshell, is that number one, never lose the plot. Self-improvement in any form is never an inconvenience. And if it is, that is an immediate red flag. That's an immediate sign that some introspection and some recalibration in your life needs to happen. Because if you are seeing self-improvement as an inconvenience, and if you are prioritizing dysfunction over growth, you've essentially backed yourself into a corner, metaphorically, and all the other levels. And here's what I mean, right? If you're not goal driven, and if you're not improvement driven, then by default, the only thing that's left to push you towards change is tragedy and crises. Okay? So what I'm imploring you to understand and imploring you to adapt is continue to take a proactive approach to this, okay? Use these feelings that you may be having as a sign that deeper introspection is needed. It's time to get present with yourself and to really determine what direction you want your life to go. Okay, this is huge. This is huge. This is the inner game that no one talks about. This is the inner game that only can be had once you're in the trenches. You know, it's just like combat. You don't, you know, you can talk about it, you can be about it, you can be on the range about it, but it's not the same when, you know, you're downrange and it's a matter of life and death, and you got stuff coming back at you, you know. So you really have to be willing to dig into yourself and really ask yourself these questions. Why am I here? What is my goal? And if you don't know what your goal is, you have to ask yourself what your nightmare is. And then once you've identified your nightmare, and most people already know what their nightmare is because they're living it and they're focusing on it. So you have to ask yourself, am I living my dream? Right? Is this what I want? If it is, have at it. But if you're living your nightmare and you know that's not what you want, then just go towards the opposite of what is making you miserable. All right? So that's a quick cheat code on how to figure out what you want. If you don't know what you want, if you're not, in terms of having a definitive goal, determine what's making you miserable and just do the opposite. How's that for a cheat code? All right, guys. But I wanted to give you guys just this quick little tip, because this is really important. I don't care what your goal is. What I've just discussed to me is the big domino of success, regardless of what it is: weight loss, personal development, business, relationships, health, your relationship with the higher self. It all comes back to how you view evolution and how you're viewing growth. Growth is never pleasant. That's another thing, guys. We have every dopamine source available now, between the social media, food, this and that. Too many people are pleasure seeking. Too many people are seeking comfort. And that's a quagmire. There is no comfort. There's only comfort in discipline and growth. If you're seeking comfort and you're miserable, that's a big problem. If you're seeking comfort and you're not being authentic to who you want to be, that's a big problem. Okay? Eventually, all of those invoices will be paid. We don't get away with anything. I remember, forgive me, but that actor, she was on a podcast. I think she was on Charlemagne podcast. I think Angela Davis, the actress. She said it succinctly. You know, every thought that you think, every food that you eat stays in your molecular structure. She says the Snickers bar you ate is still in your molecular structure, where you sit. So we don't get away with anything. So my point is figuring out what your thoughts are, figuring out what your goal is, understanding that what you're focusing on is manifesting. Okay? You can't make yourself a victim in order to hang on to your nonsense because you're trying to self-sabotage growth. It's never going to be, that's a true recipe for suffering, guys. Okay? Lean into self-growth. Know that it's going to be painful, but on the other side of that pain is discipline, competence, and confidence, and peace within yourself. All right? I hope this ramble made sense to someone. Lean into self-growth. Don't make it an inconvenience. And embrace the discipline that comes from the work that you do in order to improve yourself. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.